Welcome to The Way with your best era hosts, Ryan McKeen and Brittany Green. The podcast where we dive deep into the world of legal business and marketing. So whether you're a lawyer, marketer, or business owner in the legal industry, this podcast is for you.
Hey, Ryan, how's it going?
Hey, Brittany, how are you?
I'm doing all right. Happy belated Father's Day.
Thank you so much. Happy solstice.
Thank you. And it was your son's birthday too, right? This weekend?
I've got two teenagers now in the house. So very, very exciting times here at the McKeen household.
Very nice. Very nice. Well, we've got lots to talk about as usual that we figured out right before we hopped on this morning. You came up with the topic though. Do you want to talk about it?
I do want to talk about it. Yeah, we did a lot more planning. Like we had a call about an hour before we recorded this. And on the call, I was like, hey, Brittany, we have an idea. Let's execute on this idea, which is better than the usual 5 minutes of prep that we give before we join Riverside FM. So really what I want to talk about today, I was thinking about this because we're doing our Revolutionary Era event, July 21st in Boston. If you can't be in Boston that day, don't worry about it. We're going to be recording it. We're going to be live streaming it. You're going to get a book. We'll talk a little bit about that. But it is really, I was thinking about it. I'm like, how do we theme this out? And you can see today, if for those who are watching us, you're going to see I'm in a Boston hat, Boston shirt. So themes are like really big in marketing, right? You got to hit your people over the head with what it is that you're doing. And right now it's Boston. And I was thinking like, what else is Boston? And then it was the Boston Tea Party, right? Because one of the phrases we use at Best Era a lot is the stupid tax. Like, I'm paying the stupid tax, which is a real belief that I've had as long as I've run a business, that ignorance is the most costly thing in all of business. It's not payroll. It's not even what you do. It's like, I didn't know about that, and it cost me a ton of money, right? And really our Rev Era event, our Revolutionary Era event, is a tea party of sorts, because we're trying to have people not pay the stupid tax, which returns more money to them, their family, and benefits their firms and their clients. So it aligns with our values.
Exactly. And let's see, we didn't plan too far because we said we would come up with 10 mistakes that new law firm owners make, right? But we haven't thought of the 10 off the top. So hopefully we can think of all 10 and we don't copy each other's answers here.
Well, I've got a piece of paper and a pen, so I am prepared. So we don't end up with like 6 things or 14 things. We are going to limit this episode to 10 mistakes we see law firm owners make all of the time. And I'm gonna lead us off here. I'm gonna lead off as we're in Red Sox gear, because we will be going to Fenway Park on June 21st for those who are in Boston. For those who are not in Boston, you can also participate virtually by downloading the Nessun app and watching this horrible Red Sox team from your couch. No, don't do that, please. Don't bother with this team. You have better things to do, I promise. But we are going to start. We're going to lead off, I think, with vision. We're going to talk. I think the number one mistake that law firm owners make is they clearly do not define where they want to go, who they want to serve, what they want to do, and start building around it. Right? I understand why, because I have been there. You need to make money to pay your bills. You get concerned when the phone doesn't ring. You have to pay, mortgage, all of these things like that creep in. A lot of lawyers start in a reactive mode to just make that money and do whatever. And they never get to thinking about what do they want to do. And not only like, okay, well, today, fine, you've got to, take a will to pay your bills, but you really want to be a trial lawyer. Okay. They get too confused over, where they are now and where they want to be. And so you can say, okay, I'm going to take that will. I'm going to be intentional about it because I know I need to make $1,000 to pay my mortgage. Nobody's got $1,000 mortgage anymore. It's America in 2026. But if you did, I've got to make that money to pay this bill. But I'm not going to be doing this forever. I'm going to do this for another 6 months. And then months from now, I'm going to focus entirely on trial work. And when we talk about vision, really what we talk about it is as a destination. And hey, there's a lot of destination talk going around best era right now as we are heading into our Italian era this summer, which we are super excited about. But when you're traveling to different places, like we'll be traveling to Rome, Brittany, it's going to be hot as can be in Rome, like 100 degrees. The sun is super big. And so last night, I bought not these portable, but these like pocket
Like
sized
fans,
umbrellas.
umbrellas, that's a good one. I have a fan for myself too. Yeah.
I am losing my hair. And so instead of a mesh hat, I have a fully canvas hat to prevent, my head from being burned. And you've got to plan for that. If we were going to Iceland, I would need neither of these things. Well, I might need an umbrella because it does rain, but I'm not going to need it for the sun. And the same thing applies to lawyers who are building a law firm. It's like, okay, I know that I want to run a trust and estates practice. Fantastic. Okay. I'm going to start building out web content on trust and estates. I'm going to start going to the trust and estate CLE. Maybe I'm going to join the Bar Association's trust and estate division, right? I'm going to start taking those steps to build what I want. It's not where I am, but it's where I want to go, right? Like right now, we're here in Connecticut. It is cold today. Like it is June and it's like it is not
I
Rome
know
in
I've
100
got my
degrees,
sweatshirt on. Yeah.
right? And so there's a difference between where we are and where we want to go. We just don't get to Rome and are like in sweatshirts and like mesh hats and hoping for the best, right? We plan for those things. And so I think a lot of law firms don't do that. They don't think about where they want to go, where they want to be in the future. And once you identify that, you can identify who it is that you want to be serving, who is your ideal client, and then you can start working backwards on the planning. And even as we get into more established firms, the vision and destination can change over time, but you have to write it down. You have to think about it. You have to renew it. And so, every single quarter, when we begin a quarterly meetings, we're going to have one this week. We talk about our vision and does this align with our vision? And every year, we're like, do we need a new vision? Do we need a new destination as to where we want to go? So thing number one, not getting the vision in place.
I like it. Yep. That's definitely the most important and should be thought of day one, maybe before day one, right? Maybe do some of that sort of work before you even, go off on your own. But yeah, so definitely vision. I think to go along with that, number two, as you sit down and think about your vision, your destination, number two, that's important that law firm owners don't do right away, or ever, or they do it wrong, is also establish their values, right? What are the values that they're going to be running their firm on? A lot of lawyers that do this work often don't do it correctly. Like I said, they just think of the buzzwords that they want on a pretty plaque or something in their office, or to put on their website: excellence, trustworthy, client focused, and not to say those can't be people's values, right? They definitely are. They're common for a lot of us for a reason, but the real work of doing it is to actually be thinking about what those words mean to you, right? And the other people that are going to eventually come into your firm, as well as employees and also clients that are going to come in. What do you want them to understand about what excellence means to you? What does it mean to be client focused to you and your firm? And it really should end up being your values are your moral compass, right? That every decision that heads towards your destination, is it aligned with your values, right? Hey, some people's value may be money driven, and that's fine, and that's going to change certain decisions you make versus someone who the client always comes first no matter what, say, or something like that, and you're willing to forsake money for that. So yes, I think doing the work of defining who you are in terms of values is important, along with that vision, so that, again, as you grow and add more people and add clients to your caseload, there's no question as to who you are, how how you define yourself, and the ways you're going to make decisions.
So, Brittany, how do you define the word values? What are they practically? Like, I think there's a Webster's dictionary about what values are, which probably translates to things that are important. But in a business context, when you work with law firms, how do you define values?
I mean, like I had mentioned, I think it really is about your moral compass, right? What are the feelings, beliefs that you hold strongly and hold dear that you are willing to make hard choices for? You are willing to fire someone if they don't hold the same values as you. You are willing to fire a client if they are not treating your people the way your values have stated. Um, Again, you're willing to give up making a certain amount of money because maybe one of your values is charity work, and you're willing to forsake a certain amount of revenue for that. A- and it's I mean, from a marketing standpoint, right? When I talk to our lawyers that we work with, when we get to this sort of exercise too, it's part of your marketing, right? Your values should be easily seen in all of your marketing, because as we know, marketing is just about know, like, and trust, right? How else are they going to know you and get to like you and trust you if they don't know the values you stand for?
Brittany, you took away my number three. It's almost like you
I
have a
know.
cheat sheet which says marketing. But to me, values are very simply the things you do when
When no
you
one's
are
looking.
actually
Yeah.
it's not financially advantageous, right? So
Right.
if firing somebody who isn't a great performer is financially advantageous because they're not producing, that's one thing. If firing a great performer because they're not treating your people right or they're not treating your clients right, that's when it hurts, right? Like, values are decisions, they're things that guide you through decisions that hurt. And they're almost always, in a business context, things that require you to leave money on the table, because you don't want to lose that top performer. You don't want to lose that client. You don't want to lose out on that opportunity. But in order to live your values, you are willing to do it. I think when you have your vision and you've got your values down, the number one problem that any lawyer or law firm has to solve is acquiring clients. And if you don't believe me, I if I asked you, whatever your practice area is, if I could fill your practice up with 10 or 20 more of your ideal clients, people who have the exact problem that you want to solve, people whose values align with yours, people who appreciate your work, and people who can pay you for your work, right? Who can pay you what you need. That is going to solve 95% of problems in law firms. Like, good marketing will solve 95% of problems in law firms. Well, maybe 95 is a little bit high, but it will solve a lot
A
of
lot.
problems in law
Yes.
firms because, when you've got the right clients and you're doing the right thing, things can take care of themselves. Like, team is another component, but I'm not going to go steal number four from Brittany like she was trying to do for me. I'm not going to do that. But it is really coming up with and accepting the fact that your job when you run a law firm is to generate clients, is to generate the right clients. And so you need some sort of plan on how to do that, right? We talk about this a lot, very like very simply, like, get a headshot, you know, fill out your LinkedIn profile, put your profile in as many places as you can, get a Google business page, like, do all of these things, get a basic website up that says what you do. But I think it really goes beyond that if you're starting out, you know, and even if you're bigger, we've worked with established firms where we're like, okay, money's tight. What I want you to go do is call up ex clients of yours and just check in on them. You've got a lot of ex clients, and that person did that, and they ended up with more business than they could handle. Like you need to be taking action. It needs to be purposeful action. It could just be as simple as you texting your friends, like, hey, I opened a real estate law firm. If you know anybody who needs a closing, send them my way. I'll take good care of them. Like, that can generate business. Lawyers can overthink marketing. Lawyers can also not have any idea. They can also equate spending money with marketing. notice like what I just talked about, texting your friends or posting your headshot or claiming, various profiles costs almost nothing. Don't confuse like I need to be on TV with marketing. No, that is advertising. Okay. Pay per click is advertising. All those things can be layered in as part of a marketing strategy. And like the other mistake lawyers make is, you know, you need to always be marketing. You
Hmm.
can't just say it's slow and now I need to market, which we see a lot of lawyers do this. They're busy. They think, I don't want more cases. I can't handle more cases. You know, my general recommendation of when you start out a firm, or even if you grow and scale a firm, put 10% of your money and 10% of your time into business development, into getting those clients. It could be speaking, it could be recording videos, it could be doing podcasts, it could be a million different activities. Put 10% of your gross revenue, 10% of your time. So if you're working 40 hours a week as a lawyer and you're in a small practice, make 4 of those about getting new business. It could be having lunch with somebody. It could be having coffee. It could be writing a LinkedIn post on a Sunday morning while you're having coffee. But I think prioritizing marketing, and marketing will only work if you know who you're talking to, why you're talking to them, who you are, and what their problems are. So that gets back to 1 and 2, vision and values. You will not have good marketing if you don't adequately nail down number 1. So,
Yeah. You nailed it 100%. Yeah, those are all the common pitfalls when it comes to marketing for new people. They don't understand what it is. They think it's something you should turn on and off. Yeah, absolutely. Right. They confuse advertising for marketing. All very important, especially for new law firms. Let's see. Okay, my next one, not creating systems or SOPs, standard operating procedures from day one. Again, when you're starting out, we get it's just you typically. It's all feels very reactive, and it doesn't feel like your best use of time is to sit there and write out how you do things or record how you do things and keep them somewhere. But the sooner you start doing those things, again, especially if your, vision is to grow in any capacity, at some point you want to make sure you're not having to reinvent the wheel every day and every time you do something. So the sooner you start, even if it's just you talking out how you're doing each process of your day, how you do the mail, how you like to organize it, how creating templates for demands and briefs. The more you capture things early on and, organize them in a sort of knowledge management system, which does not have to be fancy. You don't need to use a Notion or a Tetra or a Slate if you don't want to. A Google Drive is just fine. But yeah, the sooner you start to organize your thoughts, organize the way you like to do things, the easier it's going to be as you have more people. The easier it's going to be when, one thing that you only do every month, once a month or something, and every month you sit back and you're like, wait, what was the best way I liked to do it? What was the most efficient way? You don't have to keep again reinventing the wheel. You can just look. Now it's even better, right? Because you can do things like hook up your drive to Claude and ask Claude really quickly of like, hey, how did I like to do this? And it can look in there, look at your SOP for that question and tell you exactly what you like to do, how to do it. So it's never been easier with all the different tools at our disposal to capture systems and SOPs as early as possible.
yeah, that's a critical one. And if you're, going to even hire one person, having those in place is going to help them be better, help them serve your clients better, make you money. It is well worth an investment of your time. And I know, it can feel weird. I remember sitting in my daughter's playroom, as I talked about how now she's a teenager, she does not have a playroom, but sitting in her playroom and writing down, how to print a stamp felt really weird when I didn't have an employee, but that became really a critical foundation for success of the firm, and putting that at the core. And also, I mean, for our private consulting clients, we are doing really, really cool things with systems and feedback loops and AI that I think are going to change these firms, it's going to change the trajectory of these firms. But you don't even need to get there. Okay. You just want to be writing stuff down. Number 5, and I'm going to talk generally about this. So this is not specific to me, Brittany, okay? Disclaimer, not specific to me. I'm going to talk about partnerships, okay? And look, you see this a ton in a small law firm. People think, it's scary to go out on my own. I need a partner. I need a business partner. And the truth is it can work, and it can work really, really well. But I would say, after knowing thousands of lawyers, talk to people who, thousands of them have been in partnerships. Like, you are trying to bet on like the horrible Red Sox winning the World Series in 2026, right? You're like, the Vegas looks at you and goes, hey, look, the odds are 1 in 2 million. You're like, hey, I'm going to put down $10, right? Red Sox are not winning the World Series. Do not make that bet. This is not gambling advice. But the same is true, I think, for partnerships. I mean, these fail at rates of 98%, 95% across the board. And it is very hard to get alignment. It is very hard to maintain alignment, both on vision and values. And also, it just eats up an enormous amount of time. So if you're like, hey, I want to, do this marketing initiative, or I want to open this office, or I want to add this practice area, you don't need buy-in from another person or another group of people, especially people who may not have the same knowledge that you have, may not be in the same financial position as you. And I just think that that creates a ton of turmoil all over the place for firms. I think even if you have a partnership, and the partnerships that I see be very successful aren't just the ones where the people are friends, it is where they have clear, defined roles within the firm. They operate independently in their own decision making, so that way they can go fast. They can go, and there's communication. But I would say a partnership is one of the biggest stupid taxes that most lawyers will pay, especially in small firms. And like, look, we've seen it work as well, where a younger lawyer takes over an older lawyer's practice. Like, there's a plan that makes a ton of sense. I'm talking more about like, hey, let's go into business together and form a law firm because it feels better. Don't partner. I think it can be incredibly costly. It's incredibly difficult. So mistake number 5 is partner.
Yeah, absolutely agree. Yeah, I get that it can be lonely, but yeah, find, support systems, I think, in other ways if you can, therapy, a spouse, friends, connecting with like a network group, right? That's like is going through the same thing, or joining a mastermind of some sort.
Do
I
we know
think,
any groups, Brittany?
you know, hmm, there's one that's only about $1.39 a day. It's tons of value for the price. We can link it below. I think it's called Best Era Community. But yes, I mean, exactly. Like, we have so many lawyers in that group who are early solos. We've had some who knew that they wanted to go on their own and join the group preemptively because they, understood the value of finding that community, and gaining that knowledge, and not feeling so alone when it was their time to go ahead and make the jump. So yeah, ours is definitely a great one, and there's obviously plenty of others out there too, that are worth being a part of. But yeah, so definitely, if you're choosing between the two options of a partnership or just finding community, I think one is a very clear choice.
All right, Brittany,
Okay,
thrown over to you for number 6.
let's see. I'm going to say, so this one's a scarier one, I know, especially because it's something related to obviously having enough for it, but trying to do everything yourself, like, for too long. Like, I know you've talked about it before, but like, one of your biggest mistakes was like not hiring as fast as possible, which was a mistake you didn't do with Bastera, right? From day one, you knew you wanted me on board with you, because yeah, you understood we would just be able to move significantly faster. So, and so, in terms of law firm owners, we're not saying you should go out day one and hire your associate, obviously, but, hiring a virtual assistant, an executive assistant, a legal assistant, hiring just someone who can take a lot of the tedious load off of things to free up your time for your highest, best use of work. Yeah, you know, totally understandable common pitfall of just believing it makes more sense economically to just do everything yourself for a long time until you feel like yeah, you've, saved up all this money to pay someone like an entire year's worth of salary. Like some people feel like they need that much in the bank before they're hiring someone, but I think you find that the sooner you're able to bring someone else on board to help you with the work, the faster you end up making more money.
Yeah, and this is true whether you're starting out or whether you're scaling. So often, and maybe by scaling, it could be relative. You could be 5 people. You don't have to be, 1,000 people when I'm talking about scaling. But this happens too to more established firm owners, which is, when you're a fish and you're swimming, you don't realize that you're in water, right? And so there was a firm that I did an on-site for Brittany, like early winter, January, February. I don't know. It's kind of a blur. It was cold where we were, warm where they were, and I sat down with them. And one of the things we went over was just how they're spending their time, where the backlogs are. And I was like, you need to hire somebody to be a controller for your firm. This is a more established
Mhm.
firm.
Yeah.
Talked to this person again last week. I said, hey, how's it going? So much better. We're making more money. My life is so much better. I was like, yeah, because you were giving yourself a $60,000 a year bookkeeping job and depriving your firm of your immense legal skills and business skills. And now you're able to drive forward. And also, you have data to make more clear decisions. So, yes, the I alone can do it thing, we hear it all the time. I'm the only one who can sign clients. I'm the only one who can do this. I don't have the money to do this, and too often people aren't able to grow because it's I alone and they're not thinking about how they're spending their time in a meaningful way. Which brings me, I have point seven here, which is money. I think lawyers mess up the money part. And at the very most basic level, and look, I have done this. So this is what we're talking about, a tea party for the stupid tax in Boston at a revolutionary event. It is personal to me. I didn't hire a bookkeeper when I started. And you know what? My books got messed up. And then I had to pay my accountant tons of money to go clean up my books, and I wasn't able to make good business decisions because I didn't know where my money was, where it was coming or going. So, getting your books in order is foundational. Okay. You need to be doing it. You need to know how much money you're on pace to make, a run rate over the year, what your burn rate is, how much it costs you to run your business. You need to have goals, percentages. We lay them out in my new book, How to Build a Law Firm, which is going to debut at the Revolutionary Era. We lay out percentages on how firms may want to allocate their money, but you need to be having some planning and some structure. You need to have good books. You need an accountant. You need to be able to do some basic forecasting. How much, if I take on a client, how much money do I make? How much money does this matter make me? How long does it take me to make it? Are you racking up tons of receivables? Our friend Marco Brown is like, stop work when they stop paying you. But many firms don't do that. And they let clients run up huge bills that they don't get paid for. So I would say some basic money knowledge hiring experts, hiring a bookkeeper, staying on track of it. I know you didn't go to law school. You went to law school to help people, to save the world or whatever. But at the end of the day, you've got to pay your bills, and ignoring money is not a way to get better at it at all. It's a way to find yourself in some problems. So following some basic rules of percentages, tracking some basic data doesn't have to be super complicated. If you are starting out or you've got a small firm or you're a million or 2 million in revenue or whatever, you don't need a fractional CFO. What you need to do is have your house in order financially. So that's number seven, money.
I agree with you on that. Let's see. So we're on 8. So even though I said, you should obviously hire someone sooner than you think you have to, on similar to that in the hiring bucket of mistakes, but from an opposite end is sometimes we hire too fast because we're in hot water, right? we are in a reactive mode. And so we just hire the first person that comes along. So we want to make sure we're hiring for the right fit and the right seat on things, and to not hire again just out of reaction to needing, a fire put out. So, make sure you're not picking that first candidate that comes along just because they're the first, and you need to fill a seat. Make sure you're doing your due diligence on using hiring tests, and again, figuring out exactly what seat you need to hire for, and what the right personality fit is for that, what the right skill set is for that. And oftentimes, we think we need to hire an associate, right? When we really maybe just need another paralegal or another legal assistant. So in the same sort of bucket, but on that opposite end, don't just hire out of hire out of fear, but instead just hire smartly.
Yeah, and I mean, if you mess up hiring by hiring the wrong people, if you aren't hiring to meet the need of where your firm is, you can get behind on it. Yeah, messing up, you're not testing your people like we do testing for firms who are looking to hire, not putting your vision and values in your job ad so you're not even attracting or repelling the right people. Like those can all be incredibly, incredibly costly mistakes because as we talked about a whole host of things, and I said, you know, most of your problems can be solved with better clients, marketing. Most of your problems can also be solved with a better team. And so, as we talk about a whole host of things, if I said, who's your best employee? And if I could clone 10 more of them, what would your organization look like? People can really quickly understand how important that is as well. So, yes, on people. Here's my last one, Brittany. And it's sort of to bring it a little bit, which is firms need an operating system of something. Okay. When we were at our firm, we ran on EOS. Here at Best Era, we run on the Way, which is like a modified version of EOS. But it is a regular, and there are other things out there, like they're scaling up, but you need some system on how to run your business, which includes you know, we have an annual meeting, we have quarterly meetings, we have weekly 30-minute meetings, we have written goals. We talk about our goals, we talk about our bottlenecks. And we did this with Best Era from day one. We didn't start with a logo, we started with a real vision and values, and we started laying it out. And in fact, before we even had any payments from anybody, we had leadership meetings to figure out what we wanted to do, what our roles were going to be. And that allows us to be proactive, right? It allows us to see what's working in our marketing, what's working in our finance, what's working with our people, what's not working, what should we continue to do, what should we stop doing. And even if you are a solo, you should write this stuff down, have meetings with yourself, and think about these things in a very structured way. Doesn't have to be long. Our quarterly meetings are typically, 2, 3 hours, maybe. Our annual meeting is supposed to be a day, but usually practically a half day. And our weekly meetings are half hours. But we set aside that time, we invest the energy, and it is how we move forward in a way that's not chaotic, that's not reactive, and that allows us fundamentally to serve more people, makes our lives easier, and helps make us more money.
Absolutely. That's a good one. Let's see. Okay, so I'm on number 10. I get to
Yeah.
kick or end us off. Let's see. What have we not mentioned yet? Let's see. Okay, well, this one goes sort of in with marketing things again, but it is a little different. Getting your intake wrong. I think that one's a really important one. Again, I come from it from my marketing brain, but I mean, it really, it is so important, right? If you do not have your intake figured out, then you're going to lose clients, right? And all that potential marketing work you have done leading up to getting that person to make the phone call to get connected to your firm, or fill out the web form, send the text, whatever it is, the email, whatever it is, however they connected with you. If you don't have a good system as soon as a client, contacts you, then you've just wasted all that time and effort and money from your marketing. So, understanding, how fast can you get to them, right? Speed kills all deals, as they say. So if you're not, answering that phone call as fast as possible, you're already setting yourself up for issues there. How the client experience, like think about go through the way you would experience your firm if you were a client, right? And this is especially true, I mean, really for almost any practice area, but especially the practice areas where your client is likely calling you on the worst day of their life, right? They got into an accident. They might be going to jail. They're getting divorced, right? There's a lot of a lot of reasons why we use lawyers, unfortunately, for the crappy things that happen in our lives. So remember that you are, meeting your client where they're at on likely their lowest day. So think about anything having to do with that client experience from the second you say hi and introduce yourself. So yeah, I just I think it's very important. And again, that then it goes back to document, that system, create that SOP about it, because eventually you as a law firm owner should not be the one on intake. So, just as we said, you get into that pitfall of believing you're the only one that can do an intake, the only one who can close a deal. That shouldn't be the case. You should not think you are the only one that can do that. So you need to set yourself up for a way to train other people's to answer that phone call just as well as you can and close that deal just as well as you can. Sometimes I think we get into also the pitfall of only thinking of intake as sales, and well, yes, it is. That is, if you're going to call, anything in your firm the sales department, of course intake is, but I think we forget the human side of intake a lot and the client experience part of it. It's, if you can, that person already chose you for some reason, whether it's just brand recognition, whether you did the right thing in your marketing, which was to get that person to know, like, and trust you. If you don't, if you don't close that trust on intake, then you've lost that client. Even if you get them a great outcome, you've probably lost them from not giving them the right client experience on that first phone call, or that first meeting. So yeah, I think making sure your intake is solid is a very, very important one.
All right. So I fibbed here. I'm not going to say I lied, but I have an 11th
You
one.
have a bonus?
I have a
Okay.
bonus one. Okay. So far to recap, we've got vision, values, marketing, systems, partners, I alone mentality, money, hiring mistakes, an operating system, and I put intake slash client experience. Okay. I'm going to throw out number 11, which is not investing in yourself. And the biggest investment gains that I have ever made in my career were going to trial school and really spending lots of money to learn how to become a trial lawyer, or spending lots of money to learn about understanding the business of law, right? So that is like the ignorance is like the biggest task. And so people who I see who are high achievers, and I don't define this by how much money they make, I just define it as to how happy they are, how closely aligned their life is with what it is that they want it to be. They invest in their development. They invest in the development of their team, and they do it constantly, right? So they read the book, they listen to the podcast, they join the community, they come to the event, they ask questions, they engage, and they do it again and again and again. And it's a forever thing that goes on. So, mistake is not investing in your continuing education, in your continuing development. When you level up, your organization levels up. So come to our Revolutionary Era event in Boston. That is awfully self-serving. Join our community if you haven't already. Check out our resources. We're having an AI era event in Charleston in November. We won't have that many tickets left to that, but all of these things are designed to help lawyers, I think, with all of these things. And Revolutionary Era, we're going to go right through this list. We talked a lot about what we see as the problems. We're going to talk about how to solve those problems at our Revolutionary Era event for $297. You're not going to find a better return, I think, on $297 than Revolutionary Era, where we are talking about this. This is not a sales pitch. This is literally me in a college law school classroom teaching all day with lots of caffeine. and going exactly what I go through with my students. So, which is a good place to end on, Brittany. So, what is it that you are watching, reading, consuming?
Let's see, what have I been watching, consuming? Nothing great right now. I've got to say, I finally got convinced to try out. I do love all of my fun, trashy reality TV from Bravo, but I got finally convinced to try out Love Island. So I've been watching that one that's live now. I gotta say, I don't know if I'll ever do this one again. First of all, it's way too much of a time commitment. The show is on every single day, like for an hour for 6 weeks, because it's like shot sort of in real time. So like everything that happened like the day before in Fiji over there on Love Island, they have it aired, for you at 9 p.m. every night. I like can't stay up till then anyways. Like I'm like wrapping myself up and like I'm in bed reading and stuff by 9 p.m. every night. So that alone, I like can't ever catch it live anyways. And yeah, I don't think this is the reality for me. So I'll probably stick it out for the rest of the season, but personally, I don't recommend.
So I am in two things. So I am going to Italy and I'm reading Walter Isaacson's biography of Leonardo da Vinci. Fascinating character. Cannot wait to go see his work over in Italy and go to Il Duomo in Florence where he was doing his work, and just very, very excited about that. So I do recommend that book if you like biographies and you want to understand Renaissance in Italy. Very good book. But equally as important, I am all in on the World Cup. I love watching these games. I love that they all decided to stand out by wearing pink cleats by accident. Like that is hysterical. All these companies make these independent marketing decisions, so they're all wearing pink cleats. I am optimistic about Team USA because they beat Australia 2-0. It's not even nothing. I can't even
Wow.
say that. They beat it 2-0. So I'm very excited about Team USA, where this is all going. And I also love that my social media was taken over by the Tartan Army
I
invading
know.
Boston, and the fun that was had. And to me, it's just good, like, to see people come together and to have fun and for like love to be in the air. Like I am like that is what America needs. And I am here for, you know, street cones on statues in Boston. And I'm here for the Scots singing at Fenway Park. Like the world needs more of that. So
Yeah,
I'm in on the World Cup.
I agree. I know that has been. I'm not a soccer or football fan or anything. I don't care really about any of that, but I have been loving my feed full of Scots. I am Scottish, so I am happy to root for Scotland. I think they're out now, right? Or are they have
No,
they
they can
but
still
they're
I
moving down
mean,
to like Miami or something, right?
yeah,
For their
they're
next.
out of Boston. They
Yeah,
have left Boston. They're into Miami,
yeah.
and it's not looking good because
No,
they've
but
got to
hey,
play Brazil, and if they lose to Brazil, it's over.
then it's over.
If they tie Brazil, they have a prayer. If they beat Brazil, they could be in, but I I
Yeah, I highly
I
doubt. But hey, listen, I'm just happy they got this far.
I
I'm happy we got all this content. Yeah, it has been a nice little joy and just like comic relief that is needed.
Yeah, and this like I see all these World Cup fans are like Americans are nice, and so
Yeah,
it's just nature is healing. People are having fun, more of this, please, more community. I'm here for it. So
same.
with that,
We'll catch you next time.
Thanks for joining us on this episode of The Way with Best Era. Be sure to visit our website. Don't forget to subscribe to our podcast on your favorite platform. Until next time, keep striving for your version of success.